everyone, and welcome to another episode of Getting Hammered. I'm your host, Mary Catherine Ham. I am here with my co-host, Vic Mattis of the Washington Free Beacon. There's a lot going on. We got a pop star arrested. We definitely need to talk about that. Some Fox News polling that shows some of the best news Biden's heard in a while. More gaslighting from the press. The Fairfax County Public Schools continue to fail everyone. But before we get to any of that, how you doing, Vic?
Hello, Mary Catherine. Doing just fine. I forgot to mention on the last show that our good friend and listener, Hugh Hewitt, had a suggestion for us, like other listeners have, of a new theme song. And I don't know if they don't like the current song that we've been using and that we had to pay for.
It's a bop. It's a bop.
It's a bop. It's catchy. It's popular with the kids. And remember, it's also the same song apparently used by Zaxby's Chicken.
I know, which is
I find it's kind of like kismet. It was meant to be.
It's an appropriate.
It was a side, right?
Coming together. Yes.
So Hugh, however, he suggested a song called "Carolina in the Pines."
Mm-hmm.
Lovely, because Carolina, of course. I don't benefit from this at all, but it's Carolina in the
He's
Pines.
thinking of me, not you.
Right,
yeah.
right. And he said he had thought about it after reading Christopher Scalia's fantastic review of the Michael McDonald memoir, What a Fool Believes, in the Weekend Beacon. Check it out. Except for, of course, Michael McDonald did not write Carolina in the Pines. That was Michael Martin Murphy. So, but that happens.
Close, though.
It is. And I couldn't help but think of the episode of The Office where Michael Scott supposedly has the Springsteen ticket giveaway, and he doesn't, but then he has a big event in the warehouse, and the song he comes out to is Huey Lewis in the News because he thinks that's Springsteen, but it's not. That's okay. But I just want to say, we take all of these things into consideration.
Okay.
So, thank you for the suggestion. That's all I had. Mary Catherine, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. I have taken up something new. I'm swimming some laps, Vic. Have you ever done the swimming as an exercise?
Sure. I used to be able to swim better. But this is actually I've never discussed this before, so this is something that we're all going to learn for the first time. And I used to be able to do the whole thing. I did the whole, when I was very young, the Red Cross thing, for the lifeguard thing about how to rescue somebody. Right. I did all that stuff, diving. And then at some point, I had a real problem of water going up my nose. It just happened. I used to be able to swim. So now, ideally, I have to swim with my head above water. Like I'm like a dog.
Your nose did not evolve properly.
Yeah, something happened. I don't know what. So I don't. But I will do the laps with my head above the water.
Okay.
But this is something that you're doing now.
I'm taking it up. Steve does it, and I know it's a good workout. And we're at the pool anyway. The kids are there, so we had the whole family out at the pool, and I try to do some laps. Well, I started easy.
I want to know what kind of swimming are you doing?
Well, I'm doing a breaststroke. That's what I'm starting with.
Yeah.
And I did just 1, 2, 3, 4 back and forth. I have never been a strong swimmer. I'm not a bad swimmer. I'm just not super practiced. I was never on a team. I do enough that I know how to get around in the water. I can do a couple strokes. I'm fine. I also don't feel like I'm a particularly naturally buoyant person. I feel like I see other people in the water. Like my mother will float on her back and her tippy toes are out of the water. Like it's not just floating so that her head's above water.
Sure.
I float on my back and my legs just go down to the bottom of the pool.
Same.
So I feel like I'm doing a lot of work to keep my legs up in the water or stay towards the surface. And yesterday I did some laps, and again, I'm only doing 1, 2, 3, 4, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So 4. Do you count that as 4 or 2?
I don't know.
It's like
whatever. 4 total lengths of the pool.
All right.
The first time, and woo,
that was
triceps are burning.
That's good, though.
It's a lot of a workout, and then
you got to keep your hands closed.
And Steve's being Steve.
Keep them closed.
Yes, that too. Steve being Steve is well, every time you come to the pool, you just do more, right? And then less will get easier. Well, sure.
Spoken like a pro.
So I go and I do 6 this time, but this time I'm sort of sharing the double lane with a woman who is decades older than I am. And she is killing it. She's killing it in the water, and I am trying to keep up with her, at least respectfully, right? Because we're sort of passing in the middle. And I'm like, well, if we pass in the middle, that means I'm sort of keeping the same pace
Sure.
as her. And no, she's just lapping my ass. Just. I guess she's been swimming forever. Again, she looked much more buoyant than I.
Okay. Also, okay.
I don't want to discount her hard work.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
Is there 2 questions for you? One, was she older than you?
Oh no, by decades.
By decades.
This is what I'm saying.
Like old enough that she's wearing a shower cap. The shower cap, a swim cap. Excuse me.
She might have been
shower cap.
And this is not a judgment. She looked fantastic.
Yeah.
She was in fantastic shape.
Yeah.
Her stroke is so smooth. Everything's going right for her, and I'm looking at her and going, I don't look anything like that. That's not what I look like in the water.
Yeah, and her buoyancy is not related to her weight then, because generally I think a larger people can float better.
Yeah.
But that's not an issue here. She just happens to have.
I mean, it might just be that I'm saying buoyancy, but it's another B word, which is that she's just better at it than I. It's just better. And Steve is like, well, you did just start. She's probably been doing this for quite a long time. I was like, I see your point. Which, of course, Steve, once again, means what? I just gotta do it more.
You just gotta do it more. That's right.
This
reps.
is what happens with all skills. It's very annoying.
It's all about the reps.
It's very annoying.
But hydrotherapy is great, especially the older you get.
I know.
So, my father, he lives alone now, and he's 86, decided that he's going to keep that pool going.
Okay.
And they just put a new liner down, and so it's just him alone swimming. And I just said, and he says he feels great. He's so tired, then he has to take a nap. I said, that's okay. You could do that. But I said, just be careful, like be near the edge because you're alone. You get a cramp at your age, no offense, but that would be a terrible thing. So,
No, there is an added stress to working out in a pool because it's like, if I fail, I could die.
Right. So you have to be strong enough in other parts of your body to get you.
Yeah, when I'm on the
whatever.
stair stepper, if I fail, the stairs stop.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay.
You press the red button.
I'll be all right.
Yeah.
But this is different.
Yeah.
And I did have to take a nap yesterday, much like your father.
It's a great feeling. I told him, I said this, you must feel great though, because
that was 6 back and forth.
Yeah.
6 lengths.
Oh, yeah. He'll do laps.
Also, Steve's like, but you're built for swimming. I'm large of shoulder and long of arm. That's my Native American name. Oh, that's so offensive. I'm sorry. But I am both of those things. So one would think I'd be pretty good at this, but it's not. Those muscles have not trained for that yet. But maybe I will become a good swimmer.
Yes.
And it's good to also, you want your kids to become strong swimmers. So now I'm showing them, look, I'm working on it.
You're showing off your guns right now. You have to go to YouTube to watch though.
That's true. I'm working on it, girls.
Did you know Columbia University had they may still have, but a swimming requirement for graduation?
Oh, really?
Yes. Our friend Matt Continetti told me this, and you cannot graduate until you complete the swimming requirement, which I don't know. There might be an old backstory of like a Columbia University student maybe who drowned or something, and then the parents wanted to put out like gave a lot of money and said you must have a swimming requirement or something like that. I don't know the backstory, but you cannot graduate until you do whatever the laps are. And he has a very funny story about it. Matt, listen, he passed. Obviously, he passed. So
surely swimming is a much more useful skill than most of the things Columbia students are learning these days.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good point.
Surely they've gotten rid of that at this point by someone saying, like, my intersectionality does
not
allow me to do this, right?
There's some...
Pools are offensive to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Depressing.
I can't imagine it still exists. We'll find out. We'll get a clarification for next show. All right. Should we talk about the news? I want to start with something light.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Start with something light, Vic.
Ease our way in.
It's summertime.
Yes.
And I believe we talked about this last year. Summertime is a time when the politicians, especially in an election year, attempt to be normal. And it has bad consequences. In this case, Chuck Schumer, Senator, took to the grill. He took to the grill, and this is almost always the most obvious or first casualty of the normalcy of a politician when they're trying to show off, is the grilling skills.
Right.
Okay?
And we're talking not even about a video. So we're not just watching him flip. This is not like, this is not like the Glenn Youngkin ad where he can flip, with just ease.
Wow.
He worked at a restaurant.
Impressive skills, right?
Impressive.
No, all we're asking is that he be normal for the literal time it takes for a snapshot.
Yeah.
The moment in time, he can't do it. So this is the Hill reporting. Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer might be feeling the burn from critics. He's getting roasted for a Father's Day grilling snapshot. I love that lead. The New York Democrat posted a photo on the social platform X on Sunday to mark the dad-centric holiday, showing him grinning while balancing a burger on a spatula. Our family has lived in an apartment building for all our years, Schumer wrote in the post, but my daughter and her wife just bought a house with a backyard, and for the first time, we're having a barbecue with hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill. Father's Day heaven, the 73-year-old senator exclaimed. But the barbecuing...
He's never left the apartment building until now. He's been in the city all this time. It's like a tree grows in Brooklyn. It's amazing.
He's never seen a grill.
No, this is...
Apparently not,
No.
because the barbecuing lawmaker fanned the flames of criticism from grilled meat mavens with a Whopper-sized snafu, firing up conservative media detractors who mocked a seemingly uncooked hamburger being topped with a slice of cheese. Yes, it's raw. There's a raw hamburger on the grill with a piece of cheese. Right. Was the grill on? Could we determine that?
I was not able to discern that. Okay.
This happens every election year.
Yeah, it does, and I have some thoughts.
Okay.
So, if you look at the picture, if you don't know, if you're not familiar with grilling, right? You have raw meat on the grill, and he has the slice of a cheese slice on top.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the top of that is not just going to cook on its own and have a nice... I mean, if you keep it there forever, maybe, but the bottom is going to be burned to a crisp, like a hockey puck. Normally what happens when you're grilling is, when one side is cooked, you flip it over.
Yes.
And then on
Preaching to the choir, because we have normal listeners.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
So they're like, tell me something that I don't know, which is, okay, fair point.
But there are probably politicians listening too, and they can use this information.
That is correct, and I can't believe I have to explain this. But then, so you flip the uncooked side then over, and on the cooked side, that's when you put the cheese. Yes. And so if you have it on the uncooked side, you're going to flip it over, and now the cheese is going to be dripping into the grill. What just happened there? And I'll tell you what happened. Somebody said, okay, Senator, ready for your shot. And some staffer said, hey, for the optics, we should probably have cheese on one of those. And they just...
A staffer who has also never left an apartment building. Yes.
Clearly. And I think that's what happened. But again, as you said, he's not alone. Do you remember Kathy Hochul?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
She was wearing a white dress, right, and an apron. And she was like, hey, whatever the occasion was, Labor Day, I don't know what. And she's holding the spatula, but she's holding the so there's nothing wrong with the food on the grill.
Right.
But she's holding the spatula like you would dispose of a mouse trap with the mouse in it. And you're like, and she's like, so if you got to go back to the Kathy Hochul picture, you can see how she's barely holding that spatula, like, get this out of my hands.
It happens a lot. There was, do you remember Cal Cunningham, who was running in North Carolina?
Okay, yeah.
And
which is a big deal, obviously.
His faux pas, as we've talked about before, you need to know your locale's particular traditions of the grill.
Oh, no.
What he did is he stood next to a closed grill with some buns and it looks like hot dogs on the side.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a North Carolina barbecue apron on.
Mm-hmm.
He says, there's nothing better than barbecue, except for winning this Senate seat, of course. Here's the problem. In North Carolina, you do not refer to anything other than pork as barbecue. You're not barbecuing here.
Yes, you're grilling.
Right.
You're grilling.
You're grilling. You're cooking out. That's not barbecue. So he got in trouble for that one. There's also the problem that sometimes happens, which is their staffers get them a brand new apron off of Amazon and just shake it out a little bit, throw it in the dryer, make sure that people can't see the creases, and then you will look more normal. I swear I need to do a consultancy just for this.
Yes. And it's shocking that they need it.
How much would they pay me?
So much. Rarely wear an apron when I'm grilling. I just stink and my shirt's all a mess. I will give Chuck Schumer props for the optics. So it's unclear to me if he's actually doing this or what. But the hot dogs in the photo look great.
They do look good. I
will
will also note
they're huge. They are not Hebrew National.
I like that he included the mitigating
choice.
He included the mitigating factor that he's never grilled before. So he's actually new to it.
Okay, well, I guess
what
he learned
I would
the
have
hard
done,
way.
he deleted the tweet. What I would have done is said after that, oh yeah, boneheaded thing with the cheese. I don't know how to grill. I'm learning. But I would have just done that.
The funny thing is with the optics, you know,
I'm from another planet.
you're right. If he didn't have the cheese on the, we're gonna spend like 20 minutes on this. If he didn't have the cheese on the patty,
It's the most important.
right? This is really what matters. If he didn't have it, it was just gray, this gray meat there. People would have been like shrugged. Ah, okay, great, good for you. And because you have to look up close and notice that it's actually not just gray. It's not that it's not cooked. The better optic, of course, is to look at like the patty with the grill marks and it's dark.
Right. You want your patty
if you want
to be
cooked.
cooked.
If you want a real a pro move after you flip it over, midway through that, you flip it. You don't flip it, but you turn it to the side so you can get a nice hatch mark going on. You
Look
want
at
the
that.
hash mark.
Look at that.
Hatch mark. Excuse me.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Get better, guys.
Yeah.
Do better. They have to hire, again, this is why I should do a consulting firm whose only job is to teach people to grill.
Yeah. Basic
teach politicians
basic things
to grill.
Also, like, whatever you do, just own it. Like, I would have much preferred seeing a photo of, like, Bob Menendez at Morton's with a steak.
Right.
Happy Father's Day.
Gold bricks in his
Gold bricks
pockets.
hanging down and you're weighing him down, his jacket.
Be who you are,
fine.
man.
Yeah, be who you are.
Okay. Well, now that we've gone over that, I will think about pricing for my beginner's course, and we will let the politicians know how much they can pay me for that.
Great. And that wraps up this episode. Oh, sorry. Just doing this forever here.
Look, the funny thing is, this is how silly politics is. This is the important stuff.
Yeah.
Because do you know what people remember Cal Cunningham for?
Yeah, that.
That.
Right.
Sorry, Cal.
Gary Bauer's presidential campaign. Do you remember? He was doing the flipping of the pancake flip. And then he fell backwards behind the curtain. It was an elevated stage. So you actually saw him disappear onto the ground. And God bless him, got back up.
Truly, it's not fair. That shouldn't be the only memory we have of people. But the grilling is so often done so badly that it has become a hallmark of American politics. Yeah. When the most American thing you can do should be to grill a burger and some hot dogs.
Yeah.
Pull it together, people.
I'm getting so hungry now.
See, now I had to start with something lighter because we're going to go into a little Israel update. Israel is warning of the prospect of all-out war with Lebanon. Now, unlike the AP couches it, which is as if this is like some aggressive move from Israel, they say
France is next.
Lebanon's Hezbollah has new weapons and intelligence capabilities that could help it target more critical positions deeper inside Israel in case of an all-out war, the militant group's leader warned on Wednesday. So,
You're seeing us, you can see we're doing this.
So Israel is concerned because a terrorist group has very sophisticated weapons it is talking very loudly about and which are pointed at it right now, which is why 80,000 people are displaced from the north of Israel and are living inside the country
since October 7th.
Since October 7th.
That's
right. Like, this is not, they got the order backwards there.
Yeah, they do. And in addition to that, of course, Netanyahu was supposed to have a meeting at the White House. That got canceled after our Israel envoy, Amos Hochstein, told Netanyahu that Netanyahu was interviewed he had said that the U.S. was withholding back in January arms and military aid from them, and that who would do that? That makes no sense. It's unconscionable. And that apparently obviously upset the Biden administration, so they canceled that. And not only that, but the Biden administration then said, we don't know what you're talking about.
Except they are withholding some arms.
Right.
Yeah.
And Tom Cotton has talked about this, senator from Arkansas, and he has he's just written a letter to demand answers from, about weapons and what exactly are we shipping over there and what is the timeline for that.
Right.
Because I think they might be getting some F-15 soon. That would be great. Okay. But
again, it's wild that the White House will say, we're going to cancel this meeting because Netanyahu said a thing that is true, correct?
Right. It was a pause.
No, there's a
remember it was a pause.
Well, and it's a certain category of weapons, but there is withholding happening.
Right.
And as usual, whenever this conflict doesn't magically end in the way that the Biden administration thinks it should, where do they put pressure? Not on Hezbollah.
No.
Not on Hamas. On Israel. So Hamas and Hezbollah are like, this is so sweet. If we just keep firing rockets, or in the case of Hezbollah, much more sophisticated weaponry that can target a lot more people more accurately, then Israel will have to pay the price. What a fantastic deal.
No, we do the work for them.
Yeah.
You see? And in addition to that, I don't know if you knew the $230 million pier, the Gaza pier, is pretty much done now. And that they believe by the end of July, it's going to be completely dismantled. So it's no longer a thing. They're just not trying to make it happen.
I feel like that pier needs a tribute video of its short life.
Yeah. Rest in pieces.
Taken from us too soon.
Yes. But, it was handy because, of course, it was a great moment in Biden's State of the Union address because he was able to say, we're going to do this like the Marshall Plan, or like the Berlin airlift. They said, we're coming to the rescue. And, in fact, a lot of those, engineers had no idea that this was going to happen.
No,
right, according to the Wall Street Journal.
I'm not an expert on this, which is why I know it was on its face sort of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I heard the plan, I was like, wait, we're gonna like a flotilla, basically. That we're gonna.
Well, flotillas.
We're gonna.
Flotilla. Okay, it's like.
Go ahead. No.
No, it's like a fleet. But anyway, okay.
Yes, you're correct. I was just thinking of floating things, and I said flotilla.
That's okay.
A tortilla that you're gonna put.
Why not?
I know words.
Yes. Anything
anyway,
illa.
A floating pier.
Yes.
Like there is the lake near a restaurant, right?
Oh, right.
That you're just going to attach here, and then we're going to get humanitarian aid over that. Mm-hmm. And by the way, if you look up the specifics of what they used to build that, it was not meant to be used in the kind of open sea area that the Biden administration forced them to use it for.
Right.
And then the idea is, well, we've built this rickety floating situation to transport the aid to the terrorist organization that is then going to distribute it. Well, we don't know. And the deal is, no boots on the ground because the boots are just on the floating thing.
That's right. We're not actually there.
And that is stupid.
Yeah.
The whole thing was dumb. And it cost $320 million.
There are ways to do this. Case in point, Omaha Beach, the Seabees. I mean, we can do it and we can create these artificial harbors, if you will. And sandbars and whatnot, but it takes more thought than just saying, hey, guess what? And it's going to happen really soon.
It's like it was planned by people who don't know what the word flotilla means.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
I love to get my military fact.
I know. I figured as you said that somebody was going to jump on, so I'm just trying to head them off at the pass.
I love it.
But Netanyahu does have his hands full because Benny Gantz left and the coalition government, the war.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Political
the war council, as they call it, I think.
Yeah, it's the funny thing about
dissolved
that situation too is that I think Gantz had said he was going to peace out on this coalition at some point. Like this is just he's so mad at the Netanyahu government's decisions, but the timing of it was post the rescue of these hostages. Which is one of the more glorious moments in the conduct of this war. Mm-hmm. It seemed like odd timing to me.
No. And speaking about those hostages, we're learning more about these wealthy, prominent families.
Yes.
Who were hiding these hostages. The Al-Jamal family, I think it was, the son who was the journalist.
Right.
And the father was, I think, a prominent doctor and an imam. And the wife or the mother, she's a phlebotomist, and they were keeping them there in the secret room. It's creepy.
I saw that there was one former hostage who spoke, I think, at the, an Israeli woman spoke at the White House about some of the sexual violence that she was subject to. And I appreciate the White House hosting that because many of their allies do not want to hear the truth of that.
No.
And to have her speak about it.
Yeah.
Amit Susanna is her name. She's a former captive released from Hamas captivity. The Israeli woman who was released during the November 2023 hostage deal with Hamas. So she was only there for like 55 days only, I say, but compared to those who are there now. After she was taken from her home during the October 7th atrocities, took the stage to share her harrowing experience. In her opening remarks, she poignantly stated, "It is difficult for me to speak about what I endured, but remaining silent is even more challenging. The sexual abuse I suffered should never happen to anyone. There is no justification for it." So I appreciate her bravery in talking about it because that must be very hard, especially because she knows she will be accused of making things up.
Wow.
But you got to have this stuff on the record.
You're not
to
supposed
some extent.
We're much more cautious on these things, but there's another side that has always said believe all women, and suddenly they're not believing any of them.
No, it is wild to watch people deny things that were recorded by the perpetrators.
Yeah. Right.
It's all out there. A lot of it's out there, guys. Okay.
Fake.
Talk about
it was a fake. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was my transition. But no, I don't know if we want to talk about that now.
We are going to talk about cheap fakes, but
not yet.
I want to do a little bit of education news.
Good.
It's been a while since we've talked about the Northern Virginia schools and all their many problems.
Yes.
But I want to note that Fairfax County Public Schools, formerly a jewel of public education in this country.
That's why people moved out there.
Which then shut down for more than 18 months during COVID. Did not offer solutions for children with disabilities. Did not offer help for kids who needed in-person tutoring. None of that. They just put you on Zoom school for 18 months. Because of all the fake rules that we now know are fake, like the 6-foot distance and it being very dangerous to children. Okay. Fairfax County Public Schools has been back in session for a while. They've done various things to cover the fact that their test scores and stuff aren't as good as they used to be, sort of covering that up. There are many good faith efforts as well by individual teachers and people to get caught up.
We want to be clear about that.
But the district itself just announced, as far as I know, and I've looked into this, trying to find it, as far as I know, without public comment beforehand, they announced Fairfax County Public Schools is adding 7 early release Mondays for elementary school kids so that teachers can do more training. So they're already very behind because they took 18 months off. They need to train teachers so they can do more catching up. But their solution is to release 7 Mondays at noon. And when I tell you the mom chat groups lit up over this, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
I will not be surprised if next year I am taking some of my friends' kids.
Right.
Because I have a more flexible schedule than some of them.
There's
Mondays.
There's a weird assumption that this doesn't disrupt families where 2 parents are working and can't take their child in the middle of the day and then do the same thing. Or maybe there's an assumption that, everyone still basically works remote. You can work remote too, so big deal.
I don't actually think it's an assumption. I think it's just disregard.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. They don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
They've never cared about parents or students throughout the entire COVID. Again, there are individuals for whom that is different, but the system has not put parents and students as a priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have not looked deeply into whether these two things are related, but they happened very close together. Fairfax County Schools unionized for collective bargaining several days before this announcement was made. By the way, Fairfax School Board is going to hold open comment about this change after they decided to do it. So they decided on the 15th, and they're
brilliant.
We're going to do some public comment on the 26th.
Yeah. So all you have to do is just sit there and take it, but the fact is it's a done deal.
And you know what they'll do? They'll make it Zoom, or they'll allow 15 people to comment or something.
Yeah. It'll be carefully monitored so they don't have the blow-ups that they did in the previous, more famously recorded school board hearings.
Yes, that made them upset.
Yeah,
that hurt their feelings.
I do wonder about if there's a part of me wonders if there's a tipping point at Fairfax where the parents are going to be like, enough is enough. Got to get these people out of here. And I thought there was a turning point, particularly in getting, better people on the school board.
Right.
On the other hand, you think about Fairfax, and this is not all of Fairfax, obviously, but there are a lot of wealthy areas. You think about Great Falls, you think about Tysons, you think about McLean. Those people have decided they have money. They're just not going to send their kids to these schools.
By the way, Fairfax
has
even been in federal court over its attempts to diversify the population at one of its magnet schools, just adding to the pile of problems that Fairfax County Schools has, because they've sort of set up a little bit too close to racial quotas.
This was Thomas Jefferson?
At Thomas Jefferson. Yeah. So they've been in federal court for that for a while. They got all kinds of things going on. Again, this used to be one of the systems that the whole nation talked about.
Right.
And anytime you hear Randy Weingarten talking about how advocates for school choice or Republicans are destroying public schools and destroying trust in the public school system, I want you to remember that they have done more work on that front than I will ever be capable of doing.
Yeah, that's right.
Especially announcing to a bunch of parents in the middle of, or at the very end of the school year, by the way, next year is 7 days. Good luck with the childcare.
Yeah.
See what you can do.
Because there are already a lot of days that they take off for various early releases and administrative days.
Well, they tried something along these lines right after COVID, and parents did revolt enough because what they tried after COVID was to add all these 4-day weeks into the school system calendar. And parents were like, are you crazy? We are so behind. These kids are so behind because you guys didn't go to school. And now you're like, 4-day weeks. That's what we're doing. Yeah. So this is just another version of that. I think they may edge toward the 4-day week eventually. The good news is my taxes have gone down a bunch. Just kidding. They've gone up.
What you got?
The cool thing that they do is so the services go down, but the taxes go up.
This is my. I say this all the time. This is my. What do you call it? A mantra, ethos, whatever it is. The way I think about these things, which is, I don't mind paying more for more, and I don't mind paying less for less.
Right.
Like I will pay. Not a lot, like a $5 for a Subway footlong, and I know what I'm getting. That's fine. But I do mind paying more for less. And this is what you have here.
That's what we have here.
Oh, and by the way, to go back to Thomas Jefferson, the issue about the equity and diversity issue, the need for more minority representation. So that means they need more Asians. Is that what they mean? Just check.
That's not what they meant. Nope.
Let me tell you something. I would have a problem getting in there. I'd be like, yes, Asians majoring in international relations. What?
Your mom's over there like, come on, Vic.
I can barely do it. Okay.
On this same subject, I wanted to note one quick thing from Chicago, where they're, of course, doing their insane collective bargaining. There's a Q&A with Climate Wire with the president of the Chicago Teachers Union explaining how climate change became a pillar of the union's contract demands. Because eye on the ball, everybody, Chicago public school students, I don't know if you know, are extremely successful. And they're doing so well that the teachers need to worry about climate change as a big priority for them. They also...
Should be worrying about the pension.
Right. No, they're not going to worry about that because they are so strong that they will take everyone else's pensions first, right? Yeah. Like the teachers are going to be like, oh, no, we're looting everyone else. A Chicago Teachers Union, the same lady, said the other day that Republicans who are into school choice just don't want black children to learn to read. She's lovely.
That's a defense.
Yeah.
That's an argument.
Her name is Stacey Davis Gates, and she says, conservatives don't even want black children to be able to read. Remember, these same conservatives are the conservatives who probably would have been championing black codes, during Reconstruction or thereafter. So forgive me again if conservatives pushing back on educating immigrant children, black children, children who live in poverty, doesn't make my anxiety go up. That's what they're supposed to say. That's literally a part of the oath that they take to be right-wing.
And they are oath keepers, as we know.
Meanwhile, she's working on climate. Yeah. We also have a lovely quote. A little clip from one of my faves, Condi Rice.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about all of us right-wingers who have taken an oath to be against black children reading. By the way, I'll look this up for next time because I don't have it on the tip of my tongue. The proficiency number for black students reading in Chicago public school, not high. Not high, guys. She's not doing her job. But she's pointing at everyone else who does not at all run Chicago.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, to say that they're at fault. Here's Condi Rice with some thoughts on the nefarious school choice agenda.
So are you for school choice or not? We already have a choice system in education. If you are of means, you will move to a district where the schools are good and the houses are expensive, like Palo Alto, California. If you go across the street from Stanford, Palo Alto High has a performance arts center that looks like a smaller version of Stanford's. If you're really wealthy, you will send your kids to private schools. So who's stuck in failing neighborhood schools? Poor kids. A lot of them minority kids. So how can you say you're for civil rights? How can you say you're for the poor when you're condemning those children to not being able to read? By the time they're in 3rd grade, they're never going to read. So if you want to say that school choice and vouchers and charter schools are destroying the public schools, fine. You write that editorial in the Washington Post, but then don't send your kids to Sidwell Friends.
Ooh, she said it. Don't send your kids to Sidwell Friends.
Yeah,
She's calling out all of y'all.
She
I'm looking across the river at Georgetown. She's calling out all of y'all.
She is not talking about a generic sort of fancy schmancy school. No, she called it out. That was, Chelsea Clinton School, Sidwell.
Obama Girls, famous alum.
Quakers.
I also want to note on this front, just to be looking out for this coming down the pike, because I'm sure it will. Scientific American advocated this week in their most recent issue for federal regulation of homeschooling. So
Scientific American did.
Yes. So get excited about that because they want people to have like education credentials to homeschool their children. Because again, the way that the public schools do it works so well that they want to impose that. Well, by the way, they note homeschool children have gone on to win national spelling bees, and famed Hungarian mathematician Paul Erdos was homeschooled by his mathematician mother. But we don't use this evidence.
Yeah.
But most states don't require the same assessment of homeschooled kids that are required for their public school peers. You know what? Y'all are lucky they don't, because they would outperform so much the public school kids. Now, there are places where kids fall through the cracks because their parents have a homeschooling philosophy that doesn't work. That is not the majority of homeschool families, and it is rich for these a-holes to tell us that homeschooling is dangerous and bad when they made us homeschool for 2 years.
Yeah. What do you think was going on?
I mean, I loved it. I loved homeschooling.
I always thought about
y'all made me do it.
There were parents who didn't have jobs where they could be remote, and they had to leave because somebody had to do those kind of jobs, real hard jobs where you have to be there in person. It
turns out some people just keep working.
Right.
Yeah.
So what did they do with the kids? They just had to leave them at home, and they're going to stay on the screen. I mean, this is why it didn't work.
Well, and a lot of people who left the system left to homeschool. I was one of them because I looked at my 6-year-old who was struggling with reading, and I said, this child doesn't need to be on a device for 6 hours a day. She won't learn to read like that. So I ditched the Zoom school in the spring and read to my child every day and had her read to me. That child, by the way, I can brag about her a little bit, reading on a 12th grade level right now. So I'm just saying, maybe the homeschool worked out in that case.
Right, exactly.
And in a lot of cases.
But they're going to find the exceptions. They're going to find the worst possible cases.
They suggest that there should be a background check. It's a background check for parents to teach their own children. That's interesting. And that you might be required to submit documents. I don't have a huge problem with like a little bit of testing to make sure you're sort of close to whatever the standard is. Virginia does some of that, although you can do a religious exception and not do the testing at all.
Sure.
If that's what you want to do. They just want to make sure that everybody's being taken care of.
Well, everybody
just like
needs,
they are in the Chicago school
If
district.
we can't get better, you can't get better either. We're going to keep us all the same.
I love that they open with like, stipulated, homeschool children are often geniuses. But let's check this.
Aside from that, while we're on this topic, I do want to say, my daughter is now going to be going to a Catholic school, and we got the summer reading list.
Right.
There were 2 books, and they are To Kill a Mockingbird and The Hobbit. Yeah. I'm like, look at that. Something before 2010. It's amazing. That's all I have to say. I was like, I'll take it. This is great already.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I have never read Tolkien. I know.
Oh, I've read The Hobbit. It's the easiest one of the books.
Sign me up.
I know I miss everyone. I have to hear. I don't hear the end of it about how you have no idea how the whole thing ends when they go back to the village. What is it? Come on, help me out here. The Shire. Sorry, the Shire. And because I'm having a stroke right here, right now on the show. But
Middle-earth?
It's the evil Saruman.
Yeah, there you go.
Saruman and Wormtongue. They went back to the Shire and they turned all the hobbits into their slaves, and so they had to. So it was a really dark.
Don't spoil it.
Sorry, it was a dark ending, but it's not in the movie. It's not even in the director's cut 7-hour Peter Jackson version, where it just wouldn't end. It's not even in that one. But I'm just letting you know. You got to read the book to find that out.
I'm told that my kids should be a little older before we do The Hobbit, but I want to do it eventually. Okay. Well, I'm on book 7 of Harry Potter right now,
well,
and
okay.
we did.
So that's like although it gets dark too.
I know, and we did the whole Narnia series, so we're working through it. We're working through it, guys. Don't let me teach them though; that could get dangerous. Okay, I want to do some 2024.
Oh boy.
I didn't start with 2024 because I don't want to wear everybody out. You know, we could talk about it every day, all day, but I don't want to do that. So we were pausing on it. We talked in our last episode about Democrats and the media and Karine Jean-Pierre sort of gaslighting us about what is happening with President Biden.
Yes.
And they're really tripling down on this stuff. Really tripling down. I want to offer an example. This is a left-leaning media critic tweeting a post or a video where he put side by side 2 different versions of Joe Biden trying to say the Homeland Defense Secretary's name.
Mm-hmm.
He says that Fox is deceptively editing the first version of this.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to play the first version.
Here at the White House yesterday, President Biden appeared to forget the name of his own DHS chief.
My name's Joe Biden. I'm Jill Biden's husband. Thanks to all the members of Congress and Homeland Security Secretary. I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside.
That was the Fox one?
That was version 1.
Okay.
Our friend on the Twitter says this is misleading. So I'm going to play them back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a different version.
I'm not sure I'm going to introduce you all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Mayorkas, as well as...
So the claim is that in that second one, after he goes, I'm not going to introduce you all the way, he then says Mayorkas.
Okay.
So that changes this.
Wait a minute.
Entirely.
What about the mumbling? Is the mumbling in both versions?
Yes.
The mumbling is in both versions, and the other one is they just cut it out where he doesn't say Mayorkas. Is that the point?
Our friend here feels like that the second clip is exculpatory. What happens, by the way, I also want to say I watched this speech. This is not late into the speech. This is not a stamina issue.
No, this is early on.
45 seconds into the speech. Okay. Now what happens is he forgets Mayorkas' name. He mumbles in a ridiculous fashion.
Right.
And then looks back up and catches the prompter and says his name.
Okay.
That's what happens.
Right.
Okay. You can tell me that perhaps the clip should have gone 1 second longer until he sees the prompter and says it. But this is like the Her testimony where they say he can't remember the year of his son's death. And they're like, no, it's clear in the transcript that he does know it. Well, yeah, after a handler told him.
Right.
Like this is... He thinks this is a gotcha. This is not a gotcha.
So what they're saying is they're not saying that the mumble was actually Mayorkas and that there was no mumble in the second version. They both exist on both. It's the only difference is that after the mumble, after he says humana, and then he says Mayorkas. Okay, well that doesn't make it any better. Is what I'm gonna say.
Mayorkas is right now changing his birth certificate to say humana. Secretary of Mayorkas.
It's like I was
so that they can then see that's his name.
I was really primed to listen to the comparison here, thinking that was the issue, but that's not the issue.
So this is what's driving me crazy because I keep seeing these side by sides.
3 shots or is it 4 shots at Kennedy's motorcade? Okay.
I keep seeing these side by sides. I feel that I am an open-minded person. I feel that I want to be fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we benefit of the doubt. We're pretty open about
yeah,
these things. We like to call it the way we see
what is it? Moderately right and moderately reliable.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the one from the Obama fundraiser, or the fundraiser with Obama, where Obama grabs his arm. There's 2 side-by-sides. One is the official feed. One is the one where a guy shot it with a cell phone.
Uh-huh.
The official feed, they say is exculpatory, but I'm watching it, and what happens is at the most problematic part of the official feed, it zooms way out, and you can't really see what's happening.
Oh, okay. So what about the G7 controversy?
So that one, which we noted.
We did.
There was action happening where he was looking, right? So it might not be that he's entirely out of bounds here, but it does look pretty clear that Meloni and Macron are a little bit concerned and are guiding him back.
Right.
There are some people, and I have talked to some of them, who think this is like so unfair. The characterization of this is completely unfair.
Because he was like, hey, look at that over there. That's what he was saying.
But I think, again, the problem isn't that this happened once and people mistook it and it's being overblown.
Right.
It's that it happens frequently, both in speech and in his motions.
There's a freezing thing that's happening now. And we saw this in the Juneteenth concert where he just froze. And then we saw it, I think just the other day, he's trying to get into a limo and then he did it again now.
Right.
So the question is, okay, you might be able to dispel this, dispel that, but what about this, that, the other? And it just goes on and on. So I guess. Well,
and his gait is so funky too that nothing sort of looks natural. Again,
even with the shoes,
he doesn't look like Chuck Grassley, right? He looks like a different 80-something-year-old, and I am not going to be told that that's not real. I also want to note that our very podcast was censored on this point on our Instagram page, where producer Jennifer produced a lovely poll for our followers. And
something fun and engaging. We love engagement.
Right.
Gotta love the engagement. Now can't do it. Can't engage on Meta.
Can't do it, folks. It was beautiful engagement. And we ran a poll. 3 choices. It had a clip of Biden at the G7 wandering away at the parachuting event.
Right.
3 choices. 1, Biden is lost. 2, this is missing context. 3, I don't care. That, my friends, is a healthy political discussion about a clip that has some ambiguity.
Sure.
What does Meta do? Slaps a banner on it that says, wait for it, missing context.
Meaning the other side of the picture. That's the context because it's missing the other guys who were wrapping up their parachute.
Right. The point is that, as usual, when the sort of ruling class, left-leaning institutions decide that a clip is unflattering to their side, or a piece of information is unflattering to their side, or in the COVID regime, that the piece of information might be true, they don't want you to have it.
Right.
They stop you from having discussions about it. That poll was just a discussion about what's happening. And we had a full discussion about the clip.
Right, including the cropping and whatever. But, all right. We want to assure our listeners, however, that we're not going to make that mistake again. Jennifer has another poll queued up, and it has to do with ivermectin. And anyway, just saying.
No, from now on, we're
How
just
often do you take it? Not at all.
We're just going to have polls that say, how spry is Joe Biden?
Yeah.
Medium spry. Yeah. Super spry.
Yeah.
Super, super spry.
Yeah.
Those are the only choices available to us. I want to note, did you ever read this piece in Tablet by Jacob Siegel about the Great Disinformation Hoax?
No, I have not.
It is super long, but I want to recommend it to everyone. He wrote it in 2023. And when I say super long, 13,000 word essay. So just like buckle in, everybody. But he goes into where the term disinformation came from. It's a spycraft term, and how it got turned on American citizens during 2016, during 2020. Sure. And he writes about how that term evolved over the last 70 years, how American institutions and government agencies have used the term to clamp down on information and discussions that they don't want. And it struck me that this is the 2024 version, this cheap fake term that they've come up with.
Or it's clean fake, as President Trump would say. The clean fake.
So this cheap fake thing, which I don't think is as good a term as disinformation or misinformation, but each one of these terms is the launch of an idea that is allegedly a grave threat to our public discourse, right? We must protect against the cheap fakes.
Yeah.
We must protect against the disinformation, which is supposed to come from a hostile foreign entity, by the way,
Right.
not American citizens.
Right.
That's what disinformation originally was meant to be.
Same thing. And the term cheap fake was originally when you bought a Gucci on 7th Avenue. It was like, I can't believe I just got it for $20.
Oh,
All right.
my gosh. The way the kids say that now is Timu, right? That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the version.
That's
same
Timu,
same
yeah.
thing, different
Don't go
generations.
there. Don't go there.
But I think for 2024,
Yeah.
what happens is they take these sort of flexible terms like disinformation, misinformation, and now cheap fake, and they say this is such a grave threat to our republic and to our, well, they say democracy because they don't know if it's a republic, to our democracy, that we must use extraordinary measures to shut down these forms of communication. Well, it turns out those forms of communication just end up being talking by Americans in public fora. And in this case, I think they needed a new term for video. And so that's what we're going to be hearing for the next 6 months.
Lovely. Lovely.
Get ready, everybody. That's Russian disinfo last time. This time it's going to be cheap fake. I think they didn't do as well coming up with this term, though.
No, they're not doing well with a lot of things.
No, they're not.
And in fact, there was that story in Axios you wanted to talk about.
Oh,
I think.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
You're welcome.
It's always fun to do a Dems freaking out story,
Yeah.
right?
It's very interesting.
So this is from Axios, which is a pretty administration-friendly publication. Senior Democrats, including some of President Biden's aides, are increasingly dubious about his theory for victory in November, which relies on voter concerns about January 6th, political violence, democracy, and Donald Trump's character. The problem is that cell isn't really working with voters who have much more immediate concerns with the economy, jobs, inflation. Sometimes the border and crime are mentioned in the top three. But he's relying on one of his longtime aides, Mike Donilon. Is that how you pronounce that? Who is really bought in on this idea that democracy is at stake so that they can save us from the disinformation and all the rest of the stuff.
And we're going to do whatever it takes.
So we're going to save democracy by undermining it at every turn. And it seems like there's sort of two camps here. One that's in denial inside the White House.
Yeah.
And one that's on the outside near panic, but the two are unable to meet because the people outside who want to say, I don't think this is going to work, are in danger of being exiled by the Biden team once they make those concerns known.
It's very interesting because for a while now, it's been the outside Dem consultants, David Axelrod, all these other people who are saying, they really need to get their act together. They're in trouble. They're the ones saying it. And this particular piece in Axios is quoting unnamed sources from now inside the campaign. It's like that movie When a Stranger Calls, the call came from inside the house, you got to get out. And so that for them is a bad sign of an impending meltdown, I think, because there's just no cohesion with that campaign. They've been trying this threat to democracy, convicted felon strategy. They dropped $80 million in ads. It hasn't moved the needle. What they know is that in 2020, Trump never led Biden.
Right.
He came close in May, I think, by like 4 points. And that if he's tied up with him now, for them, that means Trump is actually ahead.
Right. And I will note, by the way, the Fox News poll dropped this week that was like a little bit of good news for Biden in polling that he hasn't seen since probably last fall.
Yeah.
It did show him in the lead by 2 points, still within the margin of error.
And with gaining ground with independents.
Yes. And interestingly, it showed more success with that democracy argument in that poll. I'm waiting to see some more that bolsters this because I feel like everything we've seen up until now makes this the outlier.
Right.
Not,
right.
Is
Right
it a
now,
trend
that's
or
Fox
not? I
News
don't know.
poll, which is traditionally not a conservative poll, obviously. But we'll see what happens, obviously, after the debate. And then after July 4, and if those numbers just settle in again. And if you look at those battleground swing state polls, they're worried. The Biden campaign is worrying about a number of blue states flipping red because it's already happening. You look at Nevada, Iowa, obviously, Georgia, Arizona. There are no red states that people are worried about flipping blue. That's the problem for them.
Yeah. Quote from this is, it's unclear to many of us watching from the outside whether the president and his core team realize how dire the situation is right now and whether they even have a plan to fix it. that is scary. And to me, I think you're right. The administration seems incoherent to me, sort of swinging wildly from policy to policy. The immigration issue is a perfect example. 2 weeks ago, it was crackdown. Then it's giant amnesty for 500,000 people. When no one has an appetite for that.
Right.
And by the way, one of the problems might be that the campaign manager, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, said on TV this week about the amnesty policy that this is the most important thing. I believe most important was the idea of keeping these families together that have illegal migrants in them. And I just think if you have a campaign manager who thinks that's the most important issue, although it is a sympathetic issue, if you think it's the most important, you may be missing the whole thing about this election.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to go well. Although, they had a little bit of good news from that Fox News poll. You know who didn't have good news?
Yes.
Justin Timberlake.
Oh.
We got to talk about him. Okay. Justin Timberlake was arrested, suspected of DWI in the Hamptons, I believe, Sag Harbor.
Sag Harbor, very nice.
In the Hamptons, he was not coherent in the standard sobriety tests. He did not submit to a breathalyzer. He was kept overnight for arraignment in the morning. Word is from insiders at the police department, presumably, is that the arresting officer did not know who he was.
Maybe because it was dark. It was late. Right?
He didn't know his name. That's also in the
he
the
didn't
leaks.
know who when he got his license. He didn't
ring a bell for him. I said you should have sung those Trolls hits. This is a new generation out here.
Dance. Is it Dance, right? True Colors is the one.
Yeah,
the remake of
one.
Cyndi Lauper's song.
They're all old songs, but
Anna Kendrick,
the young people, you might
of course.
be like, I'm Branch, you know me.
That's right. That maybe he would have gotten that.
So maybe he could have, dropped that name. But he wasn't recognized. And then he allegedly said in the car, this is going to ruin the tour. And the cop is like, what tour? The world tour.
Okay. All right.
I don't know that that's true, guys. That's from an unnamed source.
Let me just say this first and foremost, all right? Don't drink and drive, all right? Public service announcement for you here. The second thing is I'm very glad nobody was injured or worse, okay? Also very important. Okay, now let's get all that aside. Now that we get that out of the way.
Some throat clearing on the importance of not drunk driving, yes.
It's a perilous thing if you're going to be asked how much have you had to drink or have you had to drink. If you don't say no and you try to fudge it and say, I had a couple drinks, a friend of mine who's a cop up in Jersey knows this. That's always a red flag. I had a couple drinks. Not that you're guilty. You could still pass. I mean, you could be 0.07 or whatever, but they'll be like, okay, step out or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to make you do that test, okay? He says, so he tells the cop, I only had one martini. Fair. Who among us? All right. But it does kind of depend on the size of the glass of the martini. There are certain
That's an important
places
point.
that I love where one martini is essentially two. And you have to be careful. And then you think to yourself, sort of very commonsensically, you think, well, he's Justin Timberlake. Doesn't he have like a driver? Can't he afford Uber Black SUV?
That is always confusing to me about celebrities.
Why do they do this to themselves? And the answer is because they think they are sober.
Okay.
A friend told me this. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that this is me. But, this is what people will...
This is not my personal experience.
This is not my personal experience. Again, don't do it. But, you can convince yourself, and then you come home like, oh, my gosh, or whatever, which is a terrible thing. So don't do it. In fact, take an Uber, or if you're out in the Hamptons, you can walk.
Yeah, I feel like that would be the right thing to do.
I did this once. I knew better. I said, I'm not driving. I am walking back 2 miles.
What better place to walk at midnight than the Hamptons,
The
right?
Hamptons,
Like, it's not like anything's going to happen to you.
I walked all the way to a McDonald's because I thought it would still be open. And it was like late. And it wasn't open, but the drive-thru is open. And I briefly contemplated using the drive-thru as if I would be wedged between two cars. And then I'd have to do my mime window roll down. I'll have the number 2 large Diet Coke. in a fish fillet and then like pretend to move over. But I'm not that good of a mime is why I
Well,
didn't do
that
it,
is a problem. That is a problem. Plus, the miming these days, I don't know if they would buy it because right now the miming for a window going down is.
Oh, right. It's not the same. No,
That's
I had to
just
crank it.
my finger making
yeah,
a
no,
small.
my imaginary car, you still had to crank it.
You're like, buddy, that's an old car you got on the Hamptons.
Mary
In the Hamptons.
did you? So he didn't do. What happened was he didn't do well in the field sobriety test.
Right.
So that.
So he says he's going to fight these charges. His lawyer says he's going to fight
Well,
these charges.
here's the key because he didn't take the breathalyzer. So
I
there's that.
know, and from a
That's-
libertarian perspective, that's the right thing
yeah.
to do.
Mm-hmm.
His
That's what they
mugshot,
say.
as producer Jennifer notes, she can see the glassy-eyed nature.
You know what's funny?
That might have suggested to the cop.
Jennifer, I actually have it here, glassy-eyed but still dreamy, is what I had. So, okay.
I also just want to add to this that someone, I believe, I don't know who reported this. It's in the Toronto Sun, but who is this enterprising reporter? I'm not sure. Went to Sag Harbor, where music legend Billy Joel owns a home, and staked him out outside the American Hotel, which is where Justin Timberlake was having drinks, and asked the piano man about this. And he said, "Judge not, lest ye be judged," politely declining to comment on Timberlake's legal woes. So I look forward to hearing more from celebrities who are eating at the American Hotel about Justin Timberlake's problems. By the way, are we all waiting with bated breath for the Britney Instagram post
Oh, my
about
gosh.
this?
Yeah.
Bless. I'm not a Justin Timberlake hater. I feel like
No.
I missed the cultural memo where I'm supposed to be. And,
Oh, no. Why would you hate him?
Oh, no. This
because
is
of
the thing.
thing with him and Britney?
Because of
Oh, for
Britney
goodness
and
sake.
because of Janet Jackson and because the culture at large punished Britney and Janet Jackson
For the wardrobe malfunction.
Yes, for the what is it 2004
Super Bowl. Yeah.
or 2007
Yeah.
Super Bowl or something like that. What year was that? Anyway, I'm so old now. But those women were punished and he was not, and his career continued to rise.
Mhm.
I will concede that some of that is real, particularly with the Britney situation. My dude was like 17 to 19 years old. I'm just not sure that he was supposed to know how to handle that at the time.
Yeah.
So I'm
I'm not blaming anybody I'm not blaming Britney. What
Yeah,
if it
no.
didn't work out, it didn't work out.
But a lot of people are happy that
Okay.
Justin is getting a little comeuppance.
Oh, comeuppance. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
2004, I was correct. 2004, Justin Timberlake and I are basically the same age, so he would have been about 23 at that one and like 17 to 20
That's crazy.
during the Britney relationship. So I'm a little bit, I'm not sure how much you can hold him super responsible for the culture at large at that time and not. I guess he could have spoken up more.
Tearing up my heart. Sorry. Is that the song?
You got it.
Yeah. Okay. That was the first one.
Apart,
That's right.
too.
Those guys.
And
What a
no
okay.
matter Okay.
That's very good.
There's
Very
also
catchy.
we can play it for the folks.
Yeah.
There's an old NSYNC Super Bowl commercial about not drunk driving that's reemerged
Oh.
as aging poorly. So
Again, this is Uber. You don't have an excuse. Okay. I do want to say this, Mary Catherine. We were, for our listeners, we had contemplated doing a special Taco Bell Cheez-It test, but our intrepid producer, Jennifer, she went and tried it, and this is like a taco, but they're using a Cheez-It as a shell. Is
Right,
that correct?
right.
It's not like they sprinkle the Cheez-Its into the taco. No, it's
Actually,
the shell
that would
itself.
be good.
And she said it was kind of just like wet, soggy. It didn't hold up. It
Right.
doesn't have
It's an uncanny valley of chipdom. It's like it's stuck in the middle.
It's stuck in the middle.
But you know
Okay,
what?
yeah.
We're gonna try some stuff anyway this summer. We got to
It
do
is-
some summer try.
Yeah, we
Shows.
I was disappointed to hear that because I had a whole thing on the Cheez-It.
But you know what? Maybe she got the wrong one. Maybe we'll have one shipped in and it'll be great.
Did you know that Cheez-It was supposed to be like Rare Bit, right? It's supposed to be the idea of it, which was
Yeah.
invented in 1921 in Dayton, Ohio, was beer cheese on top of toast. And the idea of the
No
Cheez-It.
wonder I like them so much.
And it was like the idea of fusing that into the cracker itself. You can picture that.
That is a great idea. That's
I
why
know.
Cheez-Its are
There's
amazing.
not enough beer cheese out there.
Okay, wait. Before we close,
Please.
a quick reading
right.
from
Please.
Condoleezza Rice, because I do want to acknowledge Juneteenth. And she writes beautifully about it. She says, every year on Juneteenth, my parents and I talked about what our ancestors must have felt the moment they found out they were free and used it as an inspiration to keep seeking a better life here in America. But even though my family has been celebrating Juneteenth since my childhood, It wasn't until 2021 that Congress voted almost unanimously to make Juneteenth, National Independence Day, a federal holiday. Because many Americans are unfamiliar with its significance, some perhaps understandably wonder why it needed national recognition at all. After all Americans celebrate the 4th of July, the ultimate celebration of our nation's founding, of our independence and our liberty. To me, Juneteenth is a recognition of what I call America's second founding. Despite our nation's extraordinary founding documents about equality, this country was founded as a slave-owning state. That is our birth defect. But the words in those carefully crafted documents, written by great men who were they themselves flawed human beings, ultimately lit the way toward a more perfect union. In some sense, the history of the United States is a story of striving to make their soaring words, we the people, real to every American. It's the story of becoming what we profess to be. This is in the Free Press, and she goes on to say that she gives thanks every year for being born in a country where this moral progress is possible, and it's worth celebrating not just by Black Americans, but by all of us. This came in the wake of 2020, the national recognition of Juneteenth, and I think is sort of tinged with like the general icky feelings we all had in 2020, and I mean that on any side of the aisle that you were on. It's sort of tinged with that, and I wish that it weren't, because it really is a beautiful day to mark. And I remember when people were saying they had never heard of it. I grew up in a very large Black population community, and I went to schools where most of my classmates were Black, so I had known what Juneteenth was.
It's not made up.
No, I had known what it was for a long time. It is the day.
Did not hear about it in Jersey. No. I can tell you that. Really? Even the Feast of San Gennaro, I can tell you about, but
it's a different culture.
Please.
On June 19th, 1865, Union soldiers arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, to inform the last of the enslaved people that, by the way, the Emancipation Proclamation happened in 1863. So a big day, an important day, one that I'm glad a lot more people know about now, although I do get slightly annoyed with the argument like, we never talked about this in school. And one of the reasons you didn't talk about it a ton in school, because even in my schools we didn't talk about it a ton, is because it happens after school is out. So
of course.
It's like 2 weeks after school is out, so you don't have an occasion for celebrating it while you're in school. But I'm glad that people are celebrating it now, and thanks to Condoleezza Rice for that beautiful write-up.
It's really the clarity of her intellect that I find so attractive. Also, I'm generally attracted to her, and I've always been. I met her in Stanford a few years ago, and man, she could talk on everything and anything. Talk to me about Sovietology and Russian history, and then she's talking about football, college football. Oh my goodness, she plays the piano. I play the piano. We have so much in common.
We're never going to get her on the show like this, Vic.
Okay, I just creeped around. That wraps up this episode of Getting Hammered. Remember, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. You can follow me on Twitter at Victorino Mattis.
I'm at MKHammer on Twitter, at MKHammerTime on Instagram. Follow the show at Getting Hammered Podcast on YouTube and Instagram, where we will only post sanitized content from now on to stay in line with the overlords. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for getting hammered responsibly, Justin Timberlake. This has been a Nebulous Media Podcast.